With officially all of Sir Alex Ferguson's signings at Manchester United now having left the club, let's take a look at the last 10 signings he made at Manchester United and rank them from worst to best, as well as see where they are now. Before we get started, as always, please like and subscribe. Number 10. Frederick Vesely. Sir Alex snatched Vesely from crosstown rivals Manchester City on the 2012 January transfer deadline day, so clearly must have seen him as a special talent. However, he would end up being released only 18 months later and failed to make an appearance for the first team. He then signed for Ipswich on a 2-year deal in the Championship and failed to make it there too, and has become somewhat of a journeyman since then. He spent the majority of his career in Italy between Serie A and Serie B, but will be playing the 3rd division of Italian football next season, as he was relegated last season with Benevento. Number 9. Ángelo Henríquez. In 2012, Sir Alex signed an unknown 18-year-old striker called Ángelo Henríquez from Chile. Ángelo fits the profile of a United player, skillful, attacking and someone who plays the game with real flair, said Ferguson at the time. However, he never actually got the opportunity to play at United and was instead loaned out several times. His first loan spell came at Wigan, where he rarely played but did win the FA Cup despite being an unused sub in the final. Next, he was at Real Zaragoza, where he played 25 times but only scored 6 goals. But it was at Zagreb where he exploded, scoring 30 goals in all competitions, which led them to sign him permanently. Unfortunately, he never replicated that form again and has made several moves throughout his career since then. Just a couple of weeks ago, he signed for a newly promoted team in Russia, whose name I won't even try and pronounce. Number 8. Nick Powell. A product of the famous Crew Academy, Powell joined United in a £6 million deal and was regarded as the next big thing. We hope Powell fills Paul Scholes' boots. For an 18-year-old boy, it has been a terrific day, Ferguson said after the midfielder scored on his United debut. But he failed to live up to those expectations, making just 8 more appearances for the club before joining Wigan on a free transfer in 2016. The most memorable moment of his United career was when Van Gaal subbed him on in a crucial game versus Wolfsburg in the group stages of the Champions League, after Mata had come off injured. It would be Powell's first United appearance in a year, and no, he didn't make an impact and his side lost the game. He forged out a decent enough career for himself in the Championship, mainly with Stoke, but didn't live up to his potential at all, and has just signed for League 2 side Stockport County. Number 7. Alexander Büttner. Büttner joined United from Vitesse in 2012 and made a good start to his Premier League career, scoring a brilliant solo goal on his debut against Wigan. But the left-back failed to build on that and made just another 27 appearances for the club before joining Russian side Dynamo Moscow in 2014. He ended up having a second stint in Vitesse, but is currently playing in the second tier of Dutch football. In an interview in 2017, he famously said, "Who can say they've won the Premier League title? I can say that. Even Steven Gerrard hasn't managed it." Number 6. Wilfried Zaha. Zaha was actually Sir Alex Ferguson's last ever signing at Man United when he signed him in the January of 2013 from Palace for £15 million. Of course, Zaha never actually got to play for Sir Alex, as he stayed out on loan to Crystal Palace until the summer of 2013, and by the time he arrived in Manchester, David Moyes was the manager. He failed to establish himself at Manchester United, making only 4 appearances for the first team and eventually re-signed for Crystal Palace. And he's been at the club ever since, establishing himself as one of the best players in the league, but his time at United was undoubtedly a failure, though you could say he never really got a fair chance. Clearly, Moyes wasn't a fan of Zaha, and according to Evra, it was allegedly due to his extracurricular activities with the manager's daughter. Number 5. Shinji Kagawa. In the summer of 2012, Manchester United were heavily linked with Eden Hazard, and though they ultimately failed to sign him, the blow was softened by the signing of one of the best players in the Bundesliga, in Shinji Kagawa. The season before Kagawa signed, he had 25 combined goals and assists in the league alone and was destined to be the next big star. But things didn't go quite to plan and he struggled to adapt to life in Manchester. The highlight of his United career was a hat-trick against Norwich in the Premier League, but after 2 years at the club, which only saw him score 6 goals, he returned to Dortmund. His second stint at Dortmund wasn't anywhere near as good as his first, though it was still better than his time at United. After leaving Dortmund for the second time in 2019, his career has gone downhill, with him playing a season in Spain's second division for Real Zaragoza, and now at 34 years old he's back playing for his boyhood club in his home country. Number 4. Phil Jones. Well, we all know by now how Phil Jones' career has gone at Manchester United. It's been massively disappointing, but let's not forget, in 2011, a 19-year-old Phil Jones was one of the best up-and-coming centre-backs in the country. He was signed for £16 million, which was big money for a teenager back then. And Sir Alex once infamously said, "Jones, arguably the way he's looking, could be our best ever player." Yeah. Well, as it turns out, he's been closer to being United's worst ever player than the best. But to be fair to Jones, he did win 3 trophies at the club, including the last title United won in 2013. In the last 4 years, he's only made 6 Premier League appearances as he spent a large chunk of his career out injured. Apparently Jones once turned down a testimonial at Man United, claiming only his parents would come and watch. Sad but true nonetheless. His contract with the club expired last month, bringing his 12-year spell at Man United to an end. Number 3. Ashley Young. A player who I think actually got a lot of unnecessary criticism in his career is Ashley Young. United signed him back in 2011 for £17 million, being Liverpool to his signature. At the time he was a pacey winger who could score goals and create them. And arguably his most memorable performance in a United shirt came against Arsenal, where he scored 2 and assisted 3 to help his side win 8-2. But after a few years at the club, he struggled with injuries and eventually lost out his place in the first team to the likes of Martial and Rashford. And this is when he transitioned into a fullback and once again became one of the first names on the team sheet. In fact, in 2018 he got recalled to the England team after 5 years and was his country's first choice left back at the World Cup. And in 2019 he was named Manchester United club captain. In 2020 he left the club to join Inter Milan, where he ended up winning the Serie A, and then in 2021 he returned to Aston Villa. Now at 38 he signed for Everton and still proving to be one of the most reliable players in the league. Number 2. Robin van Persie. Though the signings in Sir Alex's latter years at the club were mostly underwhelming, the signing of Van Persie is up there with some of the best he ever made. The season before, United painfully lost out on the league title to City on goal difference. So what does Fergie go and do? Sign the Premier League's Golden Boot winner from rivals Arsenal, of course. He only cost £24 million with a year left on his contract, which is insane when you think Mount just signed for more than double that and isn't even half the player. And as we all know by now, he chose the shirt number 20, helping United win their 20th league title with his 26 goals in the league. The following season, United were a shambles under Moyes, but he still managed 18 goals in all competitions, though he fell out with Van Gaal and left the club at the end of his 3rd season. He then signed for Fenerbahce and scored 36 goals for them in 87 games, before returning to boyhood club Feyenoord. He did 2 seasons there before retiring aged 35. Number 1. David De Gea. With De Gea having officially left Man United following his contract expiry, no player signed by Sir Alex remains at the club. And though the way he was let go by the club leaves a sour taste, there's no denying De Gea was incredibly successful. In many ways he was making United stay relevant following the departure of Sir Alex, and this can be proven by the fact that he won the club's Player of the Year award 4 years in a row. And despite playing for United in one of their roughest periods in the last 30 odd years, he still won 5 trophies at the club. At his peak, he was regarded as the best keeper in the world with his fantastic shot-stopping ability with his feet as well as the acrobatic dives. In the last few years though, there's been a clear decline in De Gea's performances, and football has clearly moved on, with more and more sweeper keepers coming through who are almost as good as outfield players with the ball at their feet. De Gea on the other hand is very much a classic shot-stopping keeper who unfortunately isn't good enough to play at the highest level, but there's no denying his legacy at United and in the Premier League. And that was it for the video today. What ranking out of 10 would you give Sir Alex's last 10 signings at Manchester United? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, please like and subscribe for loads more content.